Okay, so if you are wondering, oh, this is better. Thank you. So if you are
Better.
wondering how you can contribute to open source without writing codes, that is one way as a community manager, and that is what I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Brownie, do you mind telling us a bit about your experiences?
Hi, my name is Victory Brown, and I am an open source designer. I got into open source in 2020 during Hacktoberfest. I heard my friends talk about open source, contributing to open source, and then I was struggling with front end development, and I decided, okay, they're saying that you don't need to be a professional to contribute to open source, so I think it could be like a good place to top up my skill as a front end dev. And then I got into open source, and I decided not to do front-end development anymore. I started as a designer in open source. For the first 4 or 5 months, I was quiet in groups. I was just joining different communities and looking for the particular community that I felt comfortable and I also felt welcomed contributing to. And then I started as a researcher with the Linux Foundation Public Health Project. I didn't know what I was doing, right? But like I said, I found a community that was welcoming. They were open to my learning. They gave me resources, and then I started contributing as a researcher. And I also found the open source design community. I joined, and I was attending meetings. The thing about it is I didn't have what to say, and they didn't mind that I didn't have what to say. Everybody was welcoming and open to let you learn, fail, make mistakes, and take corrections, and also just contribute. And since then, I've just been in the open source design space, moving about, but also contributing. So that was how I got into open source.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Paloma and I am a developer advocate. I'm also a community manager and then a front end dev. And so my journey into open source, I would say it started with like applying to things like Outreachy, um, code. I did not get into any of them. But last year, when I got into Web3, I had the opportunity of actually accidentally, we created a DAO, and then we created a curriculum and a project that we open source. So I had the opportunity of doing an unofficial maintainer, so I got to see it from the back end, like what goes into creating an open source project, having people, submit the PR requests, and like all of that happens in like accepting them, in like answering questions, troubleshooting, providing support. So that is like my experience in open source in a nutshell.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Those are beautiful experiences. And so our next question will be simple. Can you share some of the challenges and obstacles that you may have experienced while collaborating in open source with all of these skill sets?
Okay, for me, I think some of the challenges I have experienced is the very first one was not knowing where to start from. I'm sure a lot of you would want to contribute, but you actually have this challenge. That was the very first one for me. Not until I got to find out that you can actually, contribute as a community manager. You can contribute by even speaking about open source, right? So yeah, that was my major challenge.
Okay, Browning, can you tell us about your challenges and obstacles so far?
I think if you're a designer here, you would know that being a designer in open source is a challenge. It is one of the challenges of open source, right? Um, for most people, they knew what they wanted to do before they got into the space. Who I am today was crafted from contributing to open source, right? I think I had to craft a niche for myself because open source gave me that possibility of doing so many things. I had a challenge of, like Precious said, not knowing what to do. I got there, so many things all at once, people ready to help, me being lost. So I had to decide, okay, what are my strengths, right? And then I used my strengths to contribute while also trying to fix up my weaknesses. And that was how I was able to like contribute to open source. I think apart from being a designer, another challenge I had was being vocal, like talking about things in meetings. I have an idea, but I was always very laid back about sharing it. Or what if I say the wrong thing, right? I don't want to be kicked out of the community. What if what I say doesn't make sense? What if I don't know what I'm saying and someone's like, oh, this girl, so whenever I want to talk, you don't give me the opportunity again. And because of that, for I think most of the communities I joined, I started like actively talking by like last year. Most of them, I would be silent throughout the meetings because I was scared. So that fear of failure, fear of saying so many things that would be wrong was one of my biggest challenge. And somehow I was able to overcome it, and we're here today.
So for me, I would say similar to everybody. I had the same challenges to everybody. But another challenge that I had was I had a picture in my head of what I thought open source looked like. And there are lots of ways to contribute to open source. There are lots of open source projects. Some are big, some are major, some can pay, and some are smaller. And they're also like, you can also take initiative and, suggest things. For example, like with our project, one of the ways that a lot of people contributed was by translating it, the curriculum or the steps or whatever, translating it into their local language, like maybe Spanish. We had the whole curriculum translated fully to Spanish. And so that's a way that you can contribute to open source. And that's something we were looking for. And that's something that somebody came and volunteered to do and like suggested. And I think we even like paid the people that did that translation, right? So if they did not put themselves out there, if they did not, show up with their strengths, like Victory said, they wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. And so that's one of the challenges I had, and that's one of the ways that you can like avoid that challenge if that's
Well, thank you all for sharing. And I'm curious, what are some of the life-changing encounters you may have experienced while collaborating open source? Paloma, do you mind starting?
I mean, so my web experience with open source was in Web3, right? And so I was able to go from being a beginner who did not know what an Ethereum address is to now working full-time in Web3, just because of like all of that experience that I got, contributing to the project, of course, like contributing, but also doing community management, I was doing a lot of things as a contributor and also somebody that was managing the project, as one of the people managing the project. And I was new to both sides, but I just showed up, I volunteered. I eventually started getting paid when we got some funding. And so that's something life-changing, because now I work full-time for a Web3 company. That's how I make my living. And all of those things can be traced to those early experiences I had with the DAO that we formed, the project, and everything even started from a hackathon. So that's a life-changing experience.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing.
I think my whole life changed from open source. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing until I got into open source. And I crafted a niche for myself. It's not a new niche because there are other people outside. I call myself a multidisciplinary designer. It means everything about design, I can do it. I can manage design people, I can do design, I can review design, I can write about design, I test products. And all of this I was able to do through contributing to open source. As a designer, I was part of the open source design team, and I got added to the core team also. And through those contributions, I've also like had the opportunity to contribute to other projects. My full-time
Paid yet. I am a volunteer, and I'm actually very happy. That's what I love doing, community as well. And well, I would say the life-changing experience for me with open source is the people, networking. I mean, I'm here today, I'm here with all of you, right? And the sense of belonging, so that's it for me.
Well, it looks like open source be changing lives every day. Now, earlier, we all shared some of the challenges that we seem to have encountered while trying to get into the open source space. And I think the reason for having this breakfast meetup is to actually discuss how we can help other persons get in based on our experiences. So how do you think we can address some of these challenges based on your experience so other persons don't get to have the same difficulties?
Okay, so based on my experience, because one thing I struggled with was knowing how to contribute. Okay, I was part of the community. I would use the chaos community for an example. I was part of it, and then I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Like, is it really relevant? Like, is my contribution going to be relevant? So this is just to put it out there. Whatever you think you are doing that is too small, it is never too small. And I think one thing with the open source community, they are always very welcoming. They are always there. Whenever you are lost and then maybe you ask a question, people are always willing to like put you through. So don't just feel like, oh, your contribution won't count. No matter how little you think it is, it actually does count. So just keep pushing.
Yes, Victory, you can go ahead. How can we address some of these challenges that you experience so other persons don't get to experience them too?
Okay, so people have, I think they say if you're going to, I don't know how this proverb is put, but I think they say if you're going somewhere for the first time, people who have passed there, they always create a path. So all you have to do is follow that path. One of the reasons why we have Oscar Fest, Open Source Community Africa, and the festival is to educate people about open source, right? We have professionals come talk about professionalism in open source. We have newbies come talk about their experiences in open source. So for you to not make the same mistakes that we have made, I think one thing I would advise to do is reach out to people who have gone before you, ask questions. I know sometimes it may be hard to believe, but I am a very, very shy person. In fact, I am shaking here. But when it comes to putting work, I would rather like let my work go than talk about my work. I like my work to precede me. So if you know that you are the shy person, you don't know how to do stuff in the open, let people see it, right? People are watching. You'd never know who is watching. Let people see it. Someone's going to reach out to you for something. Oh, I see your designs around. Do you want to come and design for Chaos Africa? Do you want to come and design for OSD? Do you want to design for Open Collective? Look for communities, be there. You don't need to start talk. Like I said, I've been in open source for like 4 years. I didn't start talking until last year. I was always quiet in meetings, or I'll be dropping whatever I felt made sense in the chat. I was a chat attendee. That's my thing. I would just be dropping. So reach out to people who have gone before you. Ask those questions because you will not make mistakes. They will always tell you about what they went through and how you can scale past it.
Thank you. So I would say on the part of like the maintainers and community managers, there's a lot more we can do to make it easier for beginners to contribute because a lot of the time for example, some projects have like issues tagged good first issue and all, but at the same time, realistically, a lot of projects don't have funding or time. People are doing this part-time, so as a contributor, you have to be proactive. Like she said, ask for help, make noise about it, that you're looking for projects, keep an eye out, make suggestions, and basically just show up, ask for help, ask what you can do, volunteer yourself, put yourself out there, and hopefully that helps. Thank you.
All right. I think we are short of time, so I hope this was insightful. You can meet every single one of them. They're really accessible, so you can reach out to them after them with your questions. So thank you, everyone. That is all the time we have for now.